What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is one that I've been looking forward to do for a couple months now, and you clicked on the video so you know it. I'm doing my top 10 favorite films of 2024. So, as of filming this video, which is January 22nd of 2025, I've seen 127. That's right, 127 2024 films. I've seen ones that have been truly terrible. In fact, I have a whole video for that, my top 10 worst films of 2024. You guys can check that out in the description down below. But I've also seen disappointing films. I've seen okay ones, middle of the road, solid, good. But this video, today we're talking about the great films, the best of the best of 2024. But that being said, keep in mind, this is not an objective list. No. This is a subjective list, which is what film is as an art form, meaning that I'm looking forward to seeing what your list will be in the comment section down below, because it will differ from mine, and that's what's great about film as an art form. Now, the way my list is going to be is this. I'm going to be giving you guys 5 honorable mentions, with the last honorable mention being the one that was so close to making my top 10. Then I'm going to go from 10 to 1, with my number 1 being my personal favorite film of 2024. And I take into account a bunch of different things in terms of my factors. The first factor is, of course, filmmaking. That's something that is really important to me. Another one is rewatchability value, historical value, and of course, entertainment value. So those are just some of the factors. But without enough exposition, guys, let's get started with the honorable mentions. So, first honorable mention, we have Strange Darling. Strange Darling is a film that I would recommend going into knowing as little as possible, because that's what I personally did, and I had a great theater experience. And I'm happy to also report back that this is a film that holds up on second viewing. In fact, I showed it to my wife, and it was great seeing her reactions to all the surprises that were in store for her watching this film. Now, if you do need to know a little bit going into this film, I will say it is a horror thriller film that is similarly to like Tarantino's filmography with how it's told, but go into it knowing only that. If you like horror films, if you like thriller films, this is the film for you. And also, it's only 96 minutes long, so it does fly by, and it's, really well crafted. And that's why I have it as an honorable mention, Strange Darling. Again, highly recommend Strange Darling. That's why it's an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, we have Maharaja. You probably haven't heard about this film, have you? I know. I didn't either until I saw that it was, one of the options to watch at my local AMC back in June. I didn't know what this film was. I didn't even really know what the premise was. But when I saw the title, I was like, you know what? Let me look at the premise. And I looked at the premise, and I was like, okay, this could be good. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. But I was looking at the premise, looked at the genres, and I was like, okay, let me give this a shot. And the opening scene was shocking. I genuinely speaking was like, oh my goodness, that really surprised me. I was like, I don't think that the film will be able to top itself in regards to shock value. And I was so wrong. The third act has so many twists and turns, specifically one twist at the very end that I found to be, genuinely speaking, stomach turning. And I mean that in the best way possible, because it really surprised me, but it also works thematically with what the story was telling. And it's a film that you really have to pay attention to, whilst at the same time, it's very entertaining. It's got a lot of really well choreographed action scenes, a really good performance, and a story that is so well told. Highly recommend Maharaja. This is a film that, unfortunately, it's not available in physical media in North America, but it is on Netflix. So I normally don't recommend streaming, but the only way to watch this film is on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, I highly recommend watching Maharaja. And please, do not watch a dubbed version. Watch it with the subtitles the way it was intended, at least for American audiences. Highly recommend Maharaja. And that's why I have it as an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, we have Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. This is a film that going into 2024, I didn't know was on my radar. In fact, I thought that we were never going to get a Wallace and Gromit film. So the fact that I found out later on in the year that we were getting one made me very happy, because I'm a huge fan of Wallace and Gromit. I think that it's great the fact that I was able to watch Wallace and Gromit at a young age and be entertained, but then grow older and then watch it and not only be entertained, but appreciate all the craftsmanship that went into Wallace and Gromit and a lot of the adult humor that I didn't pick up on as a kid. So I'm a huge fan of the shorts of Wallace and Gromit. I also like the feature-length film, The Rare Rabbit, which did win Best Animated Feature, deservingly so. And then I'm also a fan of Shaun the Sheep. And I bring up Shaun the Sheep because Shaun the Sheep was a character that was originally in Wallace and Gromit and also has its own show. And I'm currently watching Shaun the Sheep, the show, for the first time. So I'm saying all this to say that I'm a huge fan of the show. just this world in general of Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep. So I went into this film, of course, with high expectations, but at the same time saying to myself, don't overhype it, just watch it as its own thing. And I have to say, especially as its own thing, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul is really good. It's a very charming film. It's only 79 minutes long, I believe, and it flies by in regards to pacing. Voice acting is good. Humor is really good. Claymation is fantastic. Just everything that I could possibly want in a claymation film, specifically the world of Wallace and Gromit, I got. But that's the other thing. You don't necessarily have to be a fan of Wallace and Gromit to appreciate this film. It works on its own in regards to filmmaking and entertainment value. And it's a film that is similar to Maharaja on Netflix, but I don't know if we're ever going to get a physical media release. But if we do, I'll probably pick it up because, as you can tell, it's an honorable mention on this list, which meant that I really liked it and highly recommend it, of course. Next honorable mention, we have September 5. So September 5 is a film that focuses on with what happened in Munich in 1972. If you don't know what happens, this is a good educational film. Like, it's a film that you can watch, and if you don't know anything about it, you will be surprised with what happens, whilst at the same time really gaining a lot of knowledge, because this film is implementing real life footage of what happened with, of course, actors and actresses, and implementing the two in a way that is seamless. It's really well done. It also is a film that I don't believe was shot on film, but it looks like it was shot on film, and it's also expertly edited. It's expertly paced. It's only 95 minutes long, flies by. And it's a film that also serves as a really, really good companion piece to Steven Spielberg's Munich, which I do own on Blu-ray. In fact, I would recommend that if you don't know anything about the events of Munich with what happened, I'd recommend starting with September 5 and then watching Steven Spielberg's Munich right after. They are excellent companion pieces. And also, September 5 as its own works really well. It's very Captain Phillips-esque in regards to the amount of tension that was garnered from this film, and I had a really, really good experience watching this film, and I am looking forward to watching it a second time. In fact, I am planning to watch it a second time next week, so I'm looking forward to that. And again, if you haven't seen this film, highly recommend you check it out. It is in theaters currently, and I'm filming this the day before Oscar nominations are announced, so fingers crossed. I'm hoping it gets the Best Picture nomination, but who knows. But anyways, September 5, it's an honorable mention. And the last honorable mention, this is probably where people are going to click off the video because the fact that I don't have this in my top 10 is sacrilegious. It is what it is. My last honorable mention, we have Dune Part 2. So as you see, I own Dune Part 2, so it's not like I don't like this film. No, I really like Dune Part 2. I think it is an excellent experience. Like, watching this film, especially on the big screen twice, was amazing. I think that it is really well acted. I love the cinematography, love the sound mixing, love the filmmaking as a whole. And I do think it also has one of the best endings in cinema of 2024. And it's a film that came out at the right part of my life. Like, my mom had recently passed away, and this film came out around that same time. So I was listening to Hans Zimmer's score quite often after that occurred. And it's just a film that really means a lot to me. But at the same time, there were 10 other films that mean a little bit more to me in the grand scheme of things. But as it stands, I thought Dune Part 2 was an excellent sequel, and in some ways I like it better than the first. I don't know, I go back and forth on which I like better, but as it stands, I really, really liked Dune Part 2. I do have some minor quibbles here and there, and with each viewing, that is something that I had noticed more and more, but at the same time, as a spectacle, as a blockbuster, it's really, really good. One of the best of 2024, and that's why I have it as an honorable mention. And also, 4K, the 4K physical media for this, amazing. So much better than the Blu-ray. I saw the Blu-ray in my local library, and it's incredible just how much of a difference the 4K is in regards to how better it is than the Blu-ray. So if you are trying to figure out which you want to buy on physical media, highly recommend you pick this up with 4K. But yeah, that is my last honorable mention. So now we'll get started with the nitty-gritty top 10. So my number 10, we have Luca Guadagnino's Queer. So Queer is a film that I did not know going into 2024 that we were going to get. In fact, I thought we were going to get this in 2025, which is why I filmed my Luca Guadagnino ranking video and then had to quickly scramble and change the date that video was going to come out to before Queer was coming out, because it was a film that I didn't know was coming out this year. But I saw this film twice in theaters. I really, really liked this film. It is an art house film that I found to be quite meditative in its approach to a character that is quite unlikable in many ways, but that's the point of the film. And I think that it's a really interesting character study. If you're someone that doesn't like art house films, this isn't a film that's going to change your view on the genre as a whole. But if you're someone that can get on the wavelength of a character study that's focusing on someone that might not necessarily be likable, but you are more than willing to give yourself into the film and with what it's saying, I think you'll really like it. It's a combination of a bunch of different films, but the ending in particular reminded me in many ways of like Synecdoche, New York. And there's also some, hints here and there of Naked Lunch, which of course Naked Lunch is based off the same author that wrote Queer originally, so it makes sense. But there's also some hints of Call Me By Your Name, which is a Luca Guadagnino film. So there's definitely hints of other films, and you can see the influences. But this film works on its own, which I absolutely love. And I think that it has one of the best, trippy drug sequences I've seen all year. Like that scene in particular might be my favorite scene of the film, either that or the ending. But it's a film that it's so good. And the emphasis on visual storytelling is something that I loved. The costume design, the production design, the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. There's a lot to appreciate about this film, and I already can't wait to watch it for a third time. But again, I have to emphasize this. It is not a film for everyone in the slightest. But if you are willing to be an adventurous filmgoer, I'd recommend checking it out. I know I personally got a lot from this film and found it to be emotionally resonant, and that's why I have it as my number 10. Next up, my number 9, we have Conclave, which I actually have a shirt for it. I loved Conclave. I saw Conclave similar to Queer. I saw it twice in theaters, and both times it was the same experience. I loved it. I loved how it was combining religion and politics in a way that is for mature filmgoers. And that's something that I really liked, because we so often joke around in the film community that we have it where there's either, small art house films or you have big blockbusters such as Marvel or DC. So it's nice to get a film that's mid-budget, that is geared towards adults. And it's a very engaging film that at the same time serves as a mystery and a drama, and it makes for a compelling film that really made me think. It's quite a thought-provoking film. The ending itself might not necessarily work for some people, but it gets you talking, and that in itself is something that I love about film as an art form, is that it gains traction. It gains traction with people talking and discussing, and that's what I love about it. So I'd highly recommend Conclave. I wouldn't be surprised if it wins Best Picture, because it is a very well-crafted film, and it's got a lot of entertainment value, and I just think that it's very hard to not like this film. Like, I can't imagine showing this to someone and being like, oh, you didn't like Conclave? Like, it's a really, really good film that also is quite entertaining, and yeah, that's my number 9. Next up, my number 8, we have Nosferatu. So I am, gotta say this right away, I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers. I have been a fan of his since The Witch. I think The Witch was great. I absolutely love The Lighthouse. And I do think that The Northman, upon multiple viewings, I didn't quite like it as much in my most recent viewing. But Nosferatu, I would say, is his most accessible film. Like, you can watch his previous work and say you're not really a fan, but still appreciate this film because it's a classic story. I mean, if you've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, this film is very similar to that. And it makes sense because the original Nosferatu was essentially a copyright-ridden retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it makes sense as to why the two stories are very similar. But that being said, what I love about Robert Eggers directing in this film is that he makes it his own, whilst at the same time making it accessible for anybody to witness. And the filmmaking, it's impeccable. I cannot wait to pick this up on 4K because it is a stellar looking film. The costume design is great, the cinematography, the sound mixing is also really good, the makeup, and the performances are off the charts. Like, every single performance is great. I think that, some people might be surprised because it is a more classic story that I have it on my list, but sometimes I am just so enamored with the filmmaking of a film that I get caught up and I can't help but be entertained. And that's definitely the case with this film. I was thoroughly entertained, and I can see myself rewatching it multiple times. I mean, I already saw it twice in theaters, and I already have an itching to rewatch it again. So I love Nosferatu. If you like horror, if you like period pieces, this is a film you should check out. Nosferatu, I have it as my number 8. Next up, my number 7, this is a film that, unfortunately, it seems nobody's checking out, which is very unfortunate. My number 7, we have The Apprentice. So this is a film that I've talked to many people on both sides of the aisle because, yes, I consider myself to be a very well-rounded individual. I've talked to both sides of the aisle. I have people that are far left that say that they don't want to watch it because it's promoting Donald Trump. And then I've seen people on far right say that they don't want it to be a film that's critiquing Trump. So you're not able to really please either side. As it turns out, I'm a moderate. I'm an independent. So for me, this film seems tailor-made for me because I was able to watch this film and I appreciate the fact that it put Donald Trump under the microscope, critiqued him, but at the same time humanized him so that by the end, you feel conflicted. You see why he is the way that he is, why he ticks the way that he does. And at the same time, you get incredible performances, incredible makeup, incredible cinematography, just an overall very well-crafted film that, by the way, is very entertaining. It's very Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas-esque in regards to its storytelling method, in regards to the rise and fall, critique of capitalism. So it's a film that if you like those films, I would recommend checking out The Apprentice because it is a film that I believe could become a modern classic at some point because it is very well made and also very somber. Like, I found it to be very sad, especially like towards the end. It's a really well done film that knows how to direct. Like, the director is props to him for directing this film. But I knew going into this film that it was going to be something that was able to be really well directed because it's the same director that did Holy Spider, which also was a film that was very nuanced. It's incredible what this director was able to do with The Apprentice. So if you have been sleeping on The Apprentice because you fall on either far left or far right, I would highly recommend checking this film out because it's probably not at all what you expect. So yeah, The Apprentice, it's a pretty great film. That's why I have as my number 7. Next up, my number 6, we have Memoir of a Snail. So this is another claymation film. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul was, of course, an honorable mention, but Memoir of a Snail was a film that I wasn't too familiar with this film coming out this year. But once I knew that it was coming out and who the director was, which was the same director that Mary and Max, one of my favorite films of all time, not just animated, but just of all time, I knew that I was going to see this as soon as it came out near me. And I only saw it once in theaters, but I got to say, I loved Memoir of a Snail. It really hit home for me. It's really well acted. It does such a great job of showcasing depression and all the different nuances that go into it. But not only that, the voice acting is great. The humor is on point, and it just says so much. Sorry. It says so much in a way that I think is accessible for everybody. It does have some quote-unquote strange things, but at the same time, I mean, life is strange in itself. So, I mean, it's one of those things that if you're an open-minded individual, especially if you like film as an art form, I think you can appreciate that. And also just how it tackles the human experience in a way that it's not just for humans, it's also for snails. So I really like this film. I think that it's really good. It's one of those films that I think everyone should experience at least once. I can understand why some people might not want to revisit it because it is very depressing, but to experience this film once, I highly recommend it, and that's why I have it as my number 6. Now we get to the nitty-gritty, top 5. So my number 5, we have Hundreds of Beavers. So Hundreds of Beavers, a little bit of story time. Hundreds of Beavers is a film that I saw crop up quite a bit in my Letterboxd feed from people that I follow rating this film throughout the year. And every time that I saw the poster, I thought that it was a film that came out in the late 1960s. And the reason being is because the poster is very similar to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which came out in the late 1960s and I own on Criterion. So because the two posters look similar, I just thought that it came out around that same time. Thankfully, shout out to Anthony A. Perez, he reached out to me before the end of the year and he said to me, "Dude, have you seen Hundreds of Beavers?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen it." And he said, "I highly recommend you check this out because I really liked it and I think that it will be right up your alley." And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll watch it. And I watched it and yeah, he was spot on. This is a film that's right up my alley. It's 100% visual storytelling. It's black and white. It's a film that is emulating slapstick, which is like the Three Stooges, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, has all the stunt work of those type of short films as well. And it's a film that made me laugh consistently. And right from the beginning of this film, I knew that I was in for something special. Like, there are just sometimes where you'll watch a film and you know that you're in the hands of a director that has a vision and that he is someone that you can trust. And that was the case with watching this film. I immediately knew that this was a director that knew what he wanted, and he was able to thankfully succeed. It's a film that also manages to emulate video games, whilst at the same time all those other, genre-esques that I mentioned, such as Three Stooges and Buster Keaton. And it's really amazing. It's an accomplishment in itself. And I also think that the humor was laugh out loud funny. Like I laughed throughout. I thought it was very funny, and the fact that a comedy was able to make it into my top 5 should speak volumes. This is a film that if you like original films, if you're someone that's always complaining, oh, there aren't any original films anymore, yada, 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 watch this film. Because this film is quite original. It is 100% original. You will not see anything like this film. I promise you that. And I have this pre-ordered, so it is coming out on Blu-ray next week. Can't wait, because I already want to rewatch this film. Loved Hundreds of Beavers, and that's why I have it as my number 5. Next up, my number 4, we have Furioso, a Mad Max saga. So, this film, what I love about it is the fact that not only is it a film that complements Mad Max Fury Road. In fact, you can watch this and then immediately right after watch Mad Max Fury Road. I love the fact that this is a prequel that stands on its own, though. Like, this is a film that you could just watch straight up, having not seen any of the other films, and you can still appreciate it. You can still enjoy it, because I'll be honest, every time I watch this film, I forget that it's a prequel, because I just get so engulfed with the world building of this film, with the characters, with their journey, with the performances, with the filmmaking, that I oftentimes forget until towards the end that, oh yeah, this is a prequel to Fury Road. That's a testament to the directing by George Miller and the writing. And this is a film that if you like blockbuster spectacle, I think you'll be able to appreciate it. But if you also are someone like myself that loves filmmaking, you'll also really appreciate this film, because it's a film that, unfortunately it underperformed at the box office, but at the same time, I do think it will gain a cult following over the years, such as the original Mad Max did. So, I highly recommend you check this film out, because it is a really well-crafted film. And yeah, that's why I have it so high up as my number 4. Next up, my number 3, this is a film that I've seen twice in theaters now. It's still currently in theaters, by the way. My number 3, we have The Brutalist. The Brutalist is a film that's 215 minutes long. It has an overture, it does have a 15-minute intermission, and also has an epilogue. It's a film that you don't get that often. In fact, I think the last time we had a film that had an intermission was The Hateful Eight, and that was a decade ago. So prior to that, it was even longer ago, I believe. So we don't get films like this that often. And the fact that this film costs, I believe it was like $10 million, but has such an epic scale and feels like a $100 million film is a testament to the directing, is a testament to the production design, other filmmaking aspects such as makeup, performances, cinematography. Everything comes together to make a story that is just incredible at really dissecting not only the American dream and capitalism, but just what it is with the immigration experience, with what they have to go through and how much of a struggle it is. And especially now, now, if anything, this is a more timely film than ever. And I think that it's a film that also not only does it say a lot through the visual storytelling, it's also a very well acted film. It's got a great score. It's just a film that everything I could possibly want in a film, this film has. And I think that it's a film that, honestly, I liked it even better the second time, and I already can't wait to watch it the third time and many more times once it hits physical media. Fingers crossed on a 4K release. So I highly recommend The Brutalist. Fantastic film. That's why it was my number 3. Next up, my number 2, we have Challengers. So Challengers, it's also a Luca Guadagnino film. It's kind of hilarious how Luca Guadagnino had 2 films this year. Queer, which was his least most accessible film, and then Challengers, which is easily his most accessible film. It's amazing. The variety of this guy, it's truly fantastic. Challengers is such a great film to the point where it made me actually buy a tennis racket, tennis balls, and play with my wife every week. Like, this is the type of film that will get you into the sport of tennis, I promise. I play tennis every single week until, of course, winter, because you can't go on the tennis courts. But I'm already looking forward to springtime to play tennis again, because this film It's so heart-pumping, from the score to the way it's edited to the way it's paced. It's a film that really gets you into the sport, but also the mindset of these characters. And it's also a very original story that at the same time is consistently engaging. And if you find yourself not engaged early on, you gotta pick it up, man. You gotta pick it up, because the way that this film is told out of order, you got to pay attention, because there's so much information that's thrown your way that is consistently putting a different spin on the perspective of the characters that you're following. I love it. I love it. Everything I could possibly want in a film, Challengers gives. And yeah, it's a great, great film. And the fact that, similar like Conclave, it's a mid-budget film geared towards adults. Specifically, it's a sexy film. How often do you get those that are mid-budget films geared towards adults? I mean, come on now, especially in theaters. So the fact that we got a film like Challengers, I'm happy, very happy. And for the longest time, Challengers was my number one, hands down. But a couple weeks ago, I was rearranging my list, and I realized there's a film that I like a little bit more. I think about it every day. I mean, Challengers, I, of course, will think about a lot, for sure. But this is a film that I've been thinking about every single day since I first saw it, and I've seen it 3 times. Don't get me wrong, Challengers I saw 3 times. But this is a film that I am planning to watch in a couple days to show my wife. And yeah, you probably guessed already. My number one, The Substance. What a film. What a film. I've heard some people say, oh, the last 20 minutes, it goes off the rails. That's the point. Did you watch the rest of the film? This is the film that builds up to a finale that is utterly insane, but at the same time feels so purposeful with everything that came before, and at the same time really hits home the themes, the messages, and it has probably my favorite ending scene. This is a film that gets better with each viewing. I'm just going to say it. Like, my rating increased with each viewing, and I love showing this film to people, just see their reactions. And it's also a film that, it's great because you can not only view it as a dark comedy, but you can also view it as a tragedy. The fact that you're able to view it as both is something that's also a testament to the directing. The performances, the makeup, holy cow, the makeup is fantastic. The visual effects, the fact that most of this was in camera. This is a film that, it's why I love films. It made me giddy watching this film. And I can't wait to rewatch it for a 4th time. I love The Substance. And the fact that, who knows, this video might not age well tomorrow. We'll see. But the fact that this film might get a Best Picture nomination just speaks volumes to how a body horror film, that's right, is able to get it so that way it's accessible for many people to witness. That's amazing. That's amazing. Like, David Cronenberg made a bunch of body horror films that just weren't that accessible, that had a niche audience. And the fact that The Substance has caught on to many people is just a testament to its original nature of telling the story. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you like original filmmaking, this is what it's all about. Like, this is a film that you watch the behind the scenes on how they make it, and you're like, yeah, I want to get into this. Like, this is amazing. But not only that, it's a film that's very entertaining. The rewatchability value is there. And also, just, again, the importance of this film. I just can't emphasize this enough. Love this film. Again, if you're in the camp that thinks the last 20 minutes went off the rails, sorry. But I love the last 20 minutes. And I think it really is the final stamp of approval for me with this movie. Love this film. And love it. But yeah, guys, that is my top 10 favorite films of 2024. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget to follow me on Patreon, Letterboxd. If you haven't done so already, also don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I will catch you guys later.